This is Captain Kal Kat of the California. What am I? so this is the season finale of the Cerritos thing and the season. The California class. I guess I'm captain of the Milpitas because it'd be funnier than San Jose. So Milpitas. So, yeah, captain of the Milpitas. I don't even know what ship I command. So yeah. Yeah, so this is a Lower Decks, the Stars at Night, season finale of the season. Yeah, so this is the full-on outfit here on the show. Also, Strange New Worlds. Oh, I'll have to show up there too. No, maybe. Well, we'll see. That crossover one. They didn't do that this season. They didn't do a crossover. But yeah, I don't know how they're going to do that this time travel. Yeah, they're in a different era. But okay, this episode is about the it's sort of the ultimate computer, but updated. The robot ship turns out is actually programmed to have issues. This McMahon guy must have went to Pine Hill. It's the only explanation. He went to Pine Hill, or he had friends that went to Pine Hill. Then he went to Evergreen, San Jose State with us, and we didn't know it, but he was there, and he was aware of Silly Trek. And Starship locations. He was aware of it. And he was a fan. So yes, if Mr. McMahon would like to come on the Kal Kat show, that would be awesome. Yes. We're still around. Yeah. So, but yes. And considering the show was supposed to take place in 2383 during the Chimera years, slightly after them, during the Mary Sue eras, during the Mary Sue era, during Fish Out of Water, basically. At this point, it's Fish Out of Water, and the AIs are freaking out because they're building up to the AIs freaking out and destroying and attacking Mars, because that's going to happen. Just hasn't happened yet in that storyline. The AI ship goes crazy because apparently the Lalantos type guy, he's actually an evil admiral. They even joke about that at one point. He goes evil. He's a rogue admiral or something. And we also have sort of the chair of the whole thing lady who vaguely looks like, is described like basically the Borg Queen from Pine Hill. And she's in charge of Starfleet. Well, that's bad. Borg Queen from Pine Hill in the 2380s. Yeah, so that's not good. We're presuming the Milpitas was in the fleet at the end. Yeah. So I was there in that episode, one of those ships. But they did say the San Jose, so I think what they did is they just said, well, nobody's heard of Milpitas, so we'll just say San Jose. Even though nobody's heard of Cerritos over here either. So. Poor Cerritos. but yeah, they mentioned Carlsbad too, which sounds cooler though. Carlsbad does sound. Yellowstone sounds cool. But Cerritos, I think the idea there was like, okay, it sounds kind of silly. Yeah, and it's supposed to be because it's Silly Trek. Not that we were, giving weird, silly names to starships back in Pine Hill in high school back in the day, when we gave the name of we named the ship the Gorbachev after the Russian premier. We named the ship the Reagan after Reagan, and well, that makes sense. And we also named the ship the Iacocca after the Lee Iacocca, the head of Plymouth Dodge back then. Chrysler guy. Yeah, before they would, yeah. So we did that. There was a ship called the Butt Bean because it was a little homophobic. There was a ship called the Galleria, which also was supposed to be a little homophobic. There's a bunch of weird ship names. Oh, the Ray guy. One of the strangest was the Hemorrhoid, which Starfleet got mad about and renamed it the Terminal Shock, which makes it sound worse. The terminal shock was from the distant future of the 2370s, in which we were all old and crunchy, as it was quoted at the start. 2370s, yeah. Now that by Starfleet reckoning it should be 2401 or 02, That's even further into the future. They're really crunchy at this point. Yeah. The San Jose. So the ship in the story of the San Jose, that was my ship. So that one, I was there. Yeah. I'm the San Jose. I command the San Jose. Yeah. So that was fun. But yes. But yeah. So we have they have a sort of a contest between the Cerritos and the Texas class ship, and there's two more that they named after vague places in Texas, but important places in Texas. Yeah, Corpus Christi and the other one. Yeah, but not Houston. Oddly enough, leave Houston out. It's clearly supposed to be a riff on the Texas and Florida being mad at California in this season. So that's kind of what's going on. I don't know why they're mad at us. I guess we keep sending people over there, like keep sending them to Oregon and Washington, and they give us names like Californicator, stuff like that. But yeah, it wasn't me. I didn't do it. But so the San Jose in the story. Yeah. Maybe it was a temporary command where I went back to the Mary Sue, because they'd have to command the Mary Sue, because it's funny. Yeah. The original Chimera was the Chimera ships were of the Phoenix class, and they were named after various mythological beasts. So there was the Chimera and the Pegasus, and the Medusa. The Medusa was the Mary Sue, snake-headed lady. I assume there was a Pegasus too, like that other. So, but there's already a Pegasus before, so yeah, it's a different Pegasus. But yeah, that was not technically Chimera. That was an Oberth class ship, the other Pegasus. So I guess the newer one was different. So Trek yards can have a field day looking that up. Yeah. So they have this contest, and the computer AI goes nuts, and then we find out that Rutherford's programmer guy years ago that hurt him and like injured him and made him half bored or whatever was actually this evil admiral guy, and he was the one that did it. And it comes back to him, and then they figure it out. So it's like a Section 31 thing, but not. It's a sort of a halfway, yeah. And he wanted to be an admiral and rise up in the ranks, but now he's bored, so he wanted to destroy the universe or something, or is attacking the space dock. Apparently blows him up, and then it goes and attacks the Cerritos. It's programmed to attack the Cerritos. And they drop the warp code. Shax is upset because Bulmer insulted him, but then he's like all touchy-feely and stuff at the end. But he gets to fire launch the warp core. He comes up with the idea. Launch the warp core while they're being attacked, and then they can escape. So they do a TNG thing. They was throwing the warp core off the ship for some reason. Very, very silly. But they did that a couple times in the show. So it's like, they've done that. So wouldn't that strand them forever? How would anyone find them? Well, they do have subspace radio, but still, it's silly track. It's silly track. Lower Decks is silly track. Absolutely. I'm just waiting for another cameo by the officer that's not dead, who's now a captain, the commander. That would be Cito Jaxa, who was not killed by the Cardassian shuttlecraft thing, but lost and put on a Cardassian prison planet and found in the 2370s. So she should be around. She should be 8 years later. She should be around. And you're about 7 years from Starship Chimera, the fan film, which was a new Starship Chimera, which was a new class of ship, and I believe the new Chimera was the Chimera A is a what did I say that one was, Tubman class variant, something like that, because there's a Tubman class one that's the Emmett Till A is the Tubman class one, but yeah, that's later, yeah, it's the new Chimera. What is the class of the new Chimera? Adventure class? Adventure class. So it's very adventure class. Like the Aventine. It's the Aventine, basically. The Axis ship's the Aventine. So it's the Aventine from the books. It's Destiny. But that's in the 2040s, so 2400s. So a little later, 2400s. So the Aventine. In the Strange Worlds ship. But in the Chimera universe, when it was that one, yeah. So, back then, it was the Phoenix class Chimera in 2288, which is only 5 years after the story. And in that timeline, they don't mention the AI attack on Mars and all that from Picard and from the J.J. Abrams movie, so it's a slightly different timeline. Either that or they just didn't have any reason to mention it. It could have happened. They just didn't mention it in Starship Chimera. But yeah, this whole series is based on the Starship Chimera idea, but just earlier with a different crew. So, of course, in Strange Worlds, I brought some of them into the present and had them in there. And yes, the archaeology aspect of yeah, and everybody, yeah, right up there. Yeah, Mariner. The archaeology thing is in there. Science Officer Tendi, that's in there. Rutherford being, I guess, kind of married to her in the 2400s. Yeah, he's married to Mariner. And it appears that Rutherford is married to Tendi. Yeah, so in the future, which makes sense. So they're building that timeline up there so they can get to Strange Worlds and Strange New Worlds in the past, and sort of encounter each other. Silly Track was combined with the two different universes. See, they had in the 80s during Next Generation, it was not only 1988 or 89, it was 2288 and 2289 during the time of Kirk and Spock and McCoy and all that. So during that, so a little after Star Trek V. Chronologically, the chronology was weird, but it also was linked to the Next Generation because the co-creator Mark Scards or John Yeager, who is all over this story, incidentally. He's one of the admirals in the background of the scene. Yeah, so the admirals in the 2380s. He wouldn't have been in the 2380s, but oh well, he's one of the or came out cameo. He was on the ship. He's one of the officers. Actually, he said that the Henderson character on the ship, and I keep calling him Henderson because he's Henderson, is basically another guy from Pine Hill, the muscly guy that's walking around being all grandstanding and stuff. He's sort of a combination of these two guys, Chris Simmons and Arturo Lopez, I think their names were. But yeah, he's sort of a combination of those two. But he's got the attitude of Jamie Messi, who was this other guy that was like bragging. Oh, it doesn't matter. Anyways, teenagers, they do that, no harm, no foul. Boimler's basically sort of a mousy version of Silly Kelly character from Silly Track. But yeah, and interestingly enough, yeah, Freeman and Mariner are Chris are well, it would appear that Freeman is sort of Libby, and the girl is her daughter. Or Chris's daughter, yeah, Libby from Pine Hill. But they changed their race. The original, the McClanahan girls, they were twins, and they were very, very pasty white blonde girls. So they completely changed that for this story. But they did. There's a brief cameo in there of the correct Chris, one of the California class captains. So that she does appear throughout this series over and over again. The other blonde lady captain, that's Chris and Libby. Yeah, and there's also a cameo by Cito Jaxa a couple of times in this series, so that's nice. So they've clearly seen our stuff, and they're like, yeah, we think she's alive too because it was the original Lower Decks episode. Of course she's alive. They rescued her. She was on a crashing prison planet. I like that idea. We're gonna go for that. She's alive. She was rescued, and they rescued her years later. Yeah. Cito Jaxa. Yeah, because it's Star Trek. It's like, why wouldn't they? It was, yeah, they gave up too easily there. Oh, yeah, the shuttle exploded, but you're going to ignore that. No. Cito Jaxa would go on to command her own ship eventually. Although she's kind of messed up. So it took a long time. In strange worlds, we found her getting a promotion to first officer of the Chimera A under Esri Dax. So where's Locarno? Esri Locarno married Nick Locarno. On the other side, Nick Locarno is a person that exists in this timeline. He's a twin of Tom Paris. They both had trouble with Starfleet. They both went their separate ways. They're both children of Tom Paris. Liked that idea too. They kind of do that with Bulmer and Bulmer's twin in this one. So they clearly watched our stuff. They're like, oh, Bulmer and Bulmer's transporter twin, but it's more obvious in this one. It's like, well, Robbie McNeil played Locarno, and then he played Paris like Locarno, but they didn't want to say Locarno because he was irredeemable. I redeemed him. well, the Voyager was in the quadrant off in space. There was the Dominion War was happening, and the Starship. Probably California class, actually, think about it. The Starship, I didn't think about it at the time, but it probably was. The Exeter, it probably wasn't Cali class, but it was probably a similar prototype. The Exeter flies into the Battle of Bajor. And it's going to go to the Battle of Bajor, but it gets called to this, it's at a prison colony. And it finds Nick Locarno on the prison colony. And it finds Ceto Jaxa, and it finds Crass and Mahoney. Crass and Mahoney are young Federation citizens. They're not Starfleet at that point. They rescue them, young Federation citizens, and they get them onto the Exeter. And the Exeter is attacked during the Battle of Bajor. And Locarno and his crew, Locarno and the two young teenagers, because what's her name is, they're in sick bay, right? So there's like this. They're in sick bay. And what's her name is, I keep forgetting her name. Ceto is in the sick bay. She wants to help them. The ship is under attack, and the command crew is compromised. So she goes to Locarno and his crew rescue the ship. They go down to the engineering, even though they're wounded. They go down to engineering, and they figure out how to get auxiliary control working, and they summon the Enterprise, which is in the area. The Enterprise comes in and rescues them. Enterprise E rescues them, and for their bravery and heroism, Nick Locarno's sentence is commuted because he saved the ship and the planet Bajor. So they're like, oh, he helped save the ship and the planet Bajor. So, all right, he's cool now, but he's still kind of on probation. So Captain Picard then goes, it's 2376 or so, 75, 76, just about the end of the Dominion War. And so Captain Picard offers that crew postings on the Enterprise under him and Captain Maddox, so Commander Maddox. So Laurel Riker's on the Titan. I think briefly some of them served on the Titan, first Titan, and all that. So yeah, that's what they did. Nick Locarno. Now it's explained a little more in Strange Worlds, not Stranger Worlds, but the fan film. And I'm going to ramble on because why not? That Nick Locarno's the Tom Paris Nick Locarno thing works because Mrs. Locarno is Owen Paris's ex-wife, and when they divorced, she took her maiden name to one of the twin boys, and just kept the maiden name, and the other twin boy, Tom Paris. So Tom is Tom Locarno, but they call him Tom Paris. He's his twin brother, not from a transporter, his twin brother. And so and many years later, he marries Esri, the actor from Deep Space Nine. He served on it, Deep Space Nine, so he served on Deep Space Nine around the time of this show, so they could encounter him. That would be awesome. And they have encountered Tom Paris, so maybe it was actually Nick Locarno that they encountered. So he was on the ship last season in one episode, or at least his twin was. So, anyway, there's weird connections. I'm wearing this outfit, so it's official. This Halloween thing, but yeah, years later, the crew is still serving on the Chimera A. Chimera gets wrecked in 2396, and they built a new one. Adventure Class 1. And they're on that one, and in Strange Worlds parody, sort of, but set in during the time of the Picard show. Actually, the first season is set just after Picard season 2. Mm-hmm. So it's after season 2. It apparently is set after maybe even after season 3, because it has from Titan A in it as well. That's another weird thing. The Titan A, the Titan A from the new Picard show season 3 does look a lot like the model, because they same idea. Well, that actually lends itself to, okay, I thought the Shangri-La class and the Excelsior class looked cool, so I was like, I'm going to make my own version of the Titan that's the Titan A, because Riker needs a bigger ship. So in 2388, he's got this bigger ship, the Titan A, and it looks a lot like the one from Picard season 2, except the saucer section is rounder in the season 3 one, but I couldn't fabricate a wood round saucer like that and make it look like anything. I could have, but it's harder to cut angles and circles and stuff with primitive tools to make spaceships. So it ended up being very angular instead of rounded. But it would look just like it, pretty much. So it's a Shangri-La class variant, Enterprise class variant / the Enterprise 2. They're calling it Shangri-La. It's Ryan Church. It's one of his designs. And we also had it, so yeah. Interestingly enough, Star Trek Discovery also had another connection in that the Trekker, starship with the under nacelles, with the bridge underneath, you know it as the ship that Giorgio commanded in the beginning, looked remarkably similar to the Trekker ship from Starship Chimera. There was another one in the background. It wasn't the main ship. It was the one in the background. So. The can or whatever. Yeah, and then the other one, the Great Gene ship. Great Gene? Who's the guy doing it now? The ship that Riker, the Jiangxi, which Riker uses to save the fleet at the end of the other story, Picard season 2, resembles the other ship from that fleet, with the funky, but not the underbelly so much. The top part, the engines. Yeah. So they're actually the Trekker and the Sillian. The Sillian looks a little bit like the Enterprise F as well. It's odd. So there is an Enterprise F wooden model as well. Tried not to look like the other one from the game, but it kind of does. It has a cameo. Anyway, so, it's not that we know people, it's that we're on the same wavelength. Just in case. We don't know. We weren't in this episode, but we're on the same wavelength. The same fan film story ideas. They sifted through all the fan film stories and they looked through all of them. Picked the ones they liked. And there's some Trek Yard fan film stuff in there. There's some, Discovery has some elements of Hidden Frontiers in it. More so than at Abba's game. And it has some Axanar in it, because that's why they sued Axanar. Well, that and Axanar was stealing copyrighted material. Don't do that. Yeah. Think of your own stuff. Also, when you make your fan films, when you're doing fan films, don't use the music from the show. Just get somebody that knows how to play music that sounds a little spacey. Because you want to turn it off and go watch that music from that show. The music from this, just don't do that. Don't start playing the Wrath of Khan music in the background, because it's going to make you want to turn your fan film off and watch Wrath of Khan instead. That's why these Abrams stories keep going back to the Wrath of Khan over and over again. Oh yeah, in the Picard show, the evil Admiral lady is basically Libby from Pine Hill, attacking Picard. We're going to find out why she's attacking Picard. Not old girlfriend, it's not that weird. It's more like the evil Admiral lady in that story was one of the kids from Pine Hill. So, yeah. So she's in that one too. So there you go. She's apparently the villain. So yeah. Starship locations. So I have given away a hint of Starship Location Strange World Season 3, which is not in production yet. I've given you a hint that there will be a scene in which Captain Cedo Jaxa as a ship goes off on a mission. Ooh, Captain Cedo Jaxa. We're not sure which ship, but it's a familiar ship. Because we haven't built any new models yet, so it's a familiar ship. Also, we built the ships to both have emergency saucer separation. So the Emmett Till A and the Chimera A have saucer seps. So that could still happen. I'm not sure why they would do that, but they could still happen. How the heck are we going to film a space battle? Anyway, that'd be some other reason they separate. Anyway, my guess would be that Esri Locarno has left the ship for a higher position, and she's the captain. That'd be my guess. No, so she's not a higher position. Ooh. Another thing we did with the Silly Track film, because I'm not really talking much about the episode because I liked it, the finale. Go watch it. Was the idea of because we brought in Jeremy Astor and Alexander Rodchenko and Molly O'Brien and Keiko O'Brien, not Keiko, Kira Yoshi O'Brien, boy, as characters on the Strange Worlds fan film. So the fan films, the 2 seasons we did of that so far. Yeah, and I used a Julian Bashir action figure. Just made him look, like a little different. And gave him funky hair. So Bashir and Kira are talking, and they're all like, through the 2 seasons, they're implying, and then blatantly say in season 2, yeah, that whole convoluted plot where O'Brien was helping pregnant Kira because they had to establish that Nana Visitor's character, who was pregnant with Sadig Fadil's child, the doctor on the show, that she wasn't really pregnant from just out of nowhere. They didn't want to go there. They wanted her to be with Odo, even though that didn't make any sense. She could have been with the doctor. So they made this convoluted story where, Keiko was magically pregnant, and we didn't mention it, and they put the baby in her instead because it had to be rescued out of her womb or something. And it was like, why didn't they just say Kira was pregnant with Bashir? That would have been way better. They no Odo stuff, because it didn't work at all. So in the Silly Tech version, yes, that kid grows up and he looks like Bashir, and the kid's like, well, why don't you guys just come out with it? At the wedding of Molly O'Brien and Muriel Paris, they get married. And they're at the wedding, and he's all says, why don't you guys just admit it that you're my parents? Not Mr. O'Brien. And Molly's basically like, yeah, didn't you know? Didn't you tell? Come on, the story was convoluted. It was like, yeah, she was shagging, Bashir. Like Kira was. Of course she was. Come on. Molly O'Brien. Of course, they're all now adults, so it's fine. Even Jeremy Astor gets to be on the show. He's also an archaeology person. So they go to that archaeology planet. They explore the planet of the fallen ones in the 2nd season. They stay on one planet the whole time for 7 episodes, which was an interesting experiment we probably won't go back to with one planet for 7 episodes. That's a little much. But yeah, we did it. We can say we did it. But this one, fan films. There's some more ideas. Yeah, the only thing it didn't like about Strange New Worlds last season was reinventing the Gorn as some sort of alien thing. Why didn't they say that was just some other species? Why'd that have to be the Gorn? It doesn't work. They're not Regulon bloodworms. That doesn't work. Doesn't make sense. Just say they're Regulons. That would have worked. Say they're Regulons. Oh yeah. What did they think of that? They need to ask us more. If we were actually involved, they would ask us more. They're like, no, you can't do that. They're Regulons. Oh yeah. They're not Gorn. They're Regulons. Of course, then it would get really twisted. We'd have we'd have Esto, the estrogen lizard creature, come commercial guy show up, and he would make love to somebody who looks a little bit like Lieutenant Yar, just because a lizard should totally be making out with a chick. Could be funny. So it would get a little disturbing and weird, but funny. And then there'd be a fox guy who would show up. There was a fox guy in this. So I'm thinking the furry dude was one of the California class people. Could have also been a Mark's Cards character who was like, yeah, I'm this furry guy, cat guy. Fox. It looked like a fox. A fox looking dude. More than a cat. Lupine looking thing. The cat lady probably wasn't turned on. She's like, The cat lady is shagging shacks. And there's a bird guy read out of Silly Track in the story. There's all those bird aliens too with that Peanut Hamper. Peanut Hamper comes back. She returns in Strange Worlds. Anyway, yeah, she does. They build a robot. They build a golem for her, so she's like in a robot body. But yeah, of course they wrecked her in this episode and put her in that little Daystrom Institute. So yeah, they could have rebuilt her as a golem. Oh, and apparently the new one has Q and Moriarty. I wouldn't have done Moriarty, or it has lore in Moriarty. And guess who was the central villain in Starship Chimera 2019, the fan film with 2388? It was Lore. It was Lore and Henry. Lore and Henry, or Henry or Harry. Lord Henry Bister. They were the villains. So yeah, we've done this. Done this before, so just hire us. Come on, we'll do it. We're on the game. We're gonna be on the game soon. Yeah, so check it out. We're gonna go into the mirror universe and mess with it. Stuff. Anyway, so yeah, this is my review of the rundown of the whole season. Vague review of the other thing, but rundown of the Sillian stuff as well. Because I thought, yeah, the episode is good. The Texas class thing is funny though. But I wanted to ramble on about the fan films and stuff, what this is and all that. And I'm currently wearing the Halloween costume space thing. It's not perfect. This outfit it's sort of it's a Halloween costume, but it's close enough. You know, they have $100 ones out there you can get, but yeah, and they probably will, but but I just this is a little cheaper. I have two. I have one that's slightly smaller. These were about $30. Pips, everything. About $30. They're cheap. They're like something a little better than Spirit West Coast, but that's fine. You can go get them on Amazon. They're fine. They're visually, yeah. I'm not the first person to wear one of these off-brand ones too, because last year the internet character celebrity Jesse Gender also had one in blue, so it's one of these. Yeah. It's one of these from this person. Yeah, this other guy on YouTube just got one. All right. So, anyway, until next season. And also today, we will be watching. Oh yeah. Also today, the premiere of the other show. The return of Prodigy, Star Trek Prodigy. Those guys have a completely different backstory to ours. So Prodigy. That's next.